I'm Shane Nichols and I'm the CEO at Good Return. Good Return supports other microfinance institutions and social enterprises to work with their clients who are people living in poverty. There's 1.4 billion people in the Asia region living in poverty. And what they do is work with them in a few areas. One is helping them to manage their money better. Another one's access to responsible and inclusive financial services. And through that, people are able to build their assets and work their way out of poverty. Good Return was founded by Guy Winship, and Guy had the vision of setting up an Australian organisation that supported people in the Asia Pacific with microfinance. I came on shortly after the organisation was founded. That was in 2003. And since then we've grown every year. We've got a great supporter base in Australia of individuals and also some really strong corporate partners. And we've received some support from the government, which is fantastic. We work in quite a number of countries across Asia and the Pacific. We're in Cambodia, we're in Laos, Nepal, Indonesia, Philippines, the Solomon Islands, Fiji and Tonga. And in some of those countries we actually have an online lending program where people in Australia can choose to lend funds to people in those countries, families living in poverty. In other countries we're working with our partners behind the scenes to strengthen their training capacity and their organisational capacity to be able to offer inclusive financial services. Visitors to the Good Return website can see a profile of people who are living in poverty in developing countries. You can see a person's name, a little bit of a bio on them, and what they're requesting money for. And behind the scenes what's happening is our partner organisations are out there in the villages collecting these stories and uploading them to our portal. Somebody here in Australia or elsewhere that wants to support someone can browse those profiles. You can select one person that you'd like to support and you can lend them any amount you like in multiples of $25. So you could lend $50. That money would be sent to our partner. They disperse the loans to the clients in the villages. And the typical loan cycle is about 1 year. So people will repay those loans, they'll come back to us and we send them back to you. And as the lender, you can choose what you do with those repayments. So you could withdraw it, you could donate it towards our training programs and capacity building programs with our partners, or you could re-lend it to another person. So the money actually gets used multiple times. And one of the great things is that when money is donated, we actually get a match from the Australian government. So the money's leveraged in multiple ways. We work with partners that have a strong poverty alleviation focus and a social mission. So their mandate is actually to work with people living in poverty. So when we select a partner, we make sure that they've got good, robust processes for identifying new clients. And in fact, one of the things that we offer to partners is training in an effective way of identifying and tracking poverty levels over time. So there's a standard tool that we use and that we promote. It's called the Progress Out of Poverty Index. And that enables our partners to assess people's poverty levels at entry and also to be able to track that over time. One example would be a woman that we worked with in Nepal. Her name was Pabata. She came from the lowest caste in Nepal. She lived in her village all of her life, and she said that when she came together in the microfinance group with the other people in her village, this was actually the first time that she had ever shared a cup of tea with the people from the other castes in her village. So the first thing it did was bring together people socially, and that social bond enabled her to build on her innate capacities, which up until then really hadn't been manifest in any sort of enterprise. And what she did was she went out after our training program, researched small business opportunities in her village, and she identified that a tea shop had good potential. So she did a feasibility study. She got her husband to help her with that. She took a loan from the group. So up until then she'd been saving each week, a small amount each week. She demonstrated her ability to manage her money and her credibility. She was able to take a loan. And then once she took a loan, she invested it in that tea shop. And when I spoke to her, she actually said, you know, she's got additional income from the tea business, which is going really well. People come to her tea shop. It's one of the most popular in the area. But she said the really big thing that had done for her was given her the confidence to be able to do things she hadn't done before. And and she now talks to local government about things that they need in her village. She's now the treasurer of the Savings and Credit Group, despite not having a formal education. And she has a young daughter, and she was serving as an amazing role model for her daughter. And she actually brought her daughter to the district capital when I met her, so that her daughter could see, the wider world and come and meet with government representatives and even meet with people like me from other countries. And she's a really great role model, not only for her daughter, but for other people in her village. And that's the power of microfinance, is that in fact all of that work and her journey was her own effort. It wasn't a donation even, it wasn't charity, it was her own enterprise. So the way that Good Return survives is that when somebody chooses to lend, say $100 to a person in a developing country, we charge a small administration fee that covers our costs of operations. So that's $10 on $100. It's capped at a maximum of $25. So if somebody makes a larger loan, then it's capped at that $25. And what that does is it gives us a sustainable source of revenue so that we can grow our programs and we can get the message out there to the people in Australia and elsewhere that are interested in supporting this cause. Key impacts that we are creating really about giving people access to finance and also responsible and inclusive finance. Many of the people that we work with previously have had nowhere to either save formally or to access loans. And so in the absence of that, people tend to put their savings either under the mattress, and it doesn't stay very long under the mattress, it tends to get spent very quickly, or they put their savings in livestock or in gold, and both of those are vulnerable to theft, vulnerable to disease, and they're not readily convertible the same way that cash is. And so access to a formal banking service is really important if you want to work your way out of poverty. Some of the impacts of our work, we've done ex post evaluations 1 year after our training interventions, and we've found that 86% of our trainees are still in business and making a profit 1 year after the training. So we know that people are carrying on actually applying some of the learnings that they've learned through the program. And that they're making money and improving their household financial situation. We track what we do, but we also work with our partners so that they can track their own social performance. And what we find is a lot of social purpose organisations have the best intentions, but quite often they're not deliberately tracking or consciously tracking their social impact, because it's not easy to measure social impact. And so for a microfinance agency, and in fact for all social enterprises, it's much easier to track your financial bottom line. And they all do that, but quantifying the social benefit is much harder, and that's something that we work with our partners to do. But the majority of people living in poverty that we work with are working in agriculture, and so an increasing focus for us is on value adding in the agriculture sector. And our plans for the future are actually to support social enterprises specifically in the agriculture space. So sometimes that's helping farmers to access the inputs that they use in their farming, whether that be seed or fertiliser or training or other inputs. And sometimes it's about aggregating their outputs and helping them access markets and get a fairer price for their produce. So we're now working with our partners to identify strategic social enterprise investments in the agriculture space so that we can actually support people not only with accessing finance for their small business, but also accessing really strong markets so that they can actually make as much money as possible and grow their assets over. We would love people to come and visit our website. It's goodreturn.org. Experiment a bit, make a loan, see what happens, track the journey of that person and the flow of the funds. Come and talk to us, come and meet with us in our office. We've also got various volunteering opportunities. We get our volunteers to do real work, so it's not licking stamps or envelopes. We're looking for people to help with editing stories that come in. We've also got a range of professional roles people perform here in terms of accounting and finance and human resources. So there's a whole range of ways that people can get involved in our work.